Hello and welcome to Nuts and Bolts that's run by Team Leader Toolkit. Fantastic to have you here. We've got a great session on today. We're going to talk about the 3 most common issues that you might have with members of your team. So we're going to talk about how you deal with somebody who's late for work. It might be a once off, it might be a continual thing, but we'll have a chat about that. We're going to talk about conflict on your team. So if somebody's having internal conflict on your team, what are you going to do about that? And the third one we're going to have is underperformers. We're going to talk about how you deal with some of the underperformers on your team. So stay with me because I've got some great information to share with you that I think you're going to find really, really helpful. And I've got no slide packages for you today, so it's just going to be me having a chat to you. So I hope that's okay. So the first one, lateness. So really, really important to nip it in the bud early. So if somebody on your team has come to work late and it's the first time, then this is a concern chat. So you would pull them aside and say, hey, is everything okay? I noticed you were half an hour late this morning. Are you okay? And that's a concern conversation. It does 2 things. Number one, it shows that you care and you worry about the welfare of your team. The second thing that it does is it acknowledges that there is a line in the sand with regards to start and finish times, and that's an important line. So if people are going to cross over that line and be late, then there needs to be some sort of reasoning behind that. Okay. What happens if you totally ignore it for the first time? Then you've created a new normal. And it's normal for people every now and then just to come in late, okay? And you don't want to create that new normal. So for the first time, if somebody comes in late, it's a concern conversation. Are you okay? Is there anything you want to share with me? Is there anything I can support you with? If they've done it twice, then again, it's a conversation. It's a concern conversation, but it's more around the support. Okay, hey, Fred, you've done this a couple of times now. Obviously, there's something that you need some help with, or how can I support, or, what do you need from me? So it's more about support. So you're offering support. You can even give them opportunities to talk to you about why they're late. And if it's I'm struggling to drop kids off and get to work and all that sort of stuff, maybe there is some sort of thing that you can say, okay, well, why don't we make your normal start time half an hour later and then you work half an hour after, or if you have the opportunity to do that, something like that. So you're trying to cater for their needs, but you're still drawing a line in the sand that there is an expectation that they will be working on time or be at work on time. If it's 3 times in a row, then this is a conversation and it's a more formal conversation. So this is a sit-down conversation. You're still going to show concern and support, but you're also going to request some reasoning and you're going to put some action planning in place. So you're going to say, okay, Fred, your alarm didn't go off 3 times in a row. We're going to have to look at some other way to do this because you do have to be at work at 8 a.m. You're not getting in till after 8:30. So if your alarm's not working, what other things that we can do to get you to work on time? Or it might be, and get them to make some commitments of what they're going to do to change that pattern or scenario. And it is a record of conversation with that one as well. So if it's the 3rd time, then you want to do a bit of a record of conversation and make sure that you've had that coaching conversation around what support they're going to do, what are they going to do differently, how are they going to fix this, all those sorts of things. If it's bordering 4 or 5 times, then you've got to start having a disciplinary conversation. And this is something that you can reach out to your HR people and say, hey, Fred's been at work for the last fortnight. He's been late 5 times. We've had a concern conversation where I've asked if he needed support. He didn't need any support. We've had more of a formal conversation where we've sat down and we've tried to put some actions in place. That hasn't worked and he's still coming in late. Okay, so this is a discipline thing now. So we need to sit down and determine whether it's a bit of a formal warning or whatever it may be, and you can elicit the help from your HR people to do that. Now, all of those conversations that you need to have, you've got a tool right in the Unlocking Portal if you happen to be doing the Team Leader Toolkit Unlocking Portal Leadership Program, and that's called the Discussion Planner. Now, these conversations are quite confrontational and you might feel out of your comfort zone, and that's okay, but you can't ignore this sort of stuff because what you ignore becomes the new normal, okay? And that's really, really important to remember. So if you're okay with your team coming in late, then don't have the conversation, ignore it. But if you're not okay with that, let me tell you, you need to nip it in the bud as early as possible. So pull out your discussion planner, have 10, 15 minutes of going through the discussion planner. You will be emotive during this conversation. You will feel a bit nervous, and that's okay. Having that discussion planner gives you that preparation time so that you can make sure that conversation is on point and doesn't start, going left or right or, going down rabbit holes, okay? So pull out that discussion planner and have a go at it. If you're not on the Unlocking portal, if you're not doing our leadership program, then email me at ask@teamleadertoolkit.com and I'll send you one, because I think this is really, really important. So that's your first scenario, lateness. And it is quite, common. But remember, whatever you ignore, whatever you let go becomes the new normal. If you do decide, no, I'm going to act on this because I don't want it to be the new normal, then be aware that people might be a bit miffed, they might be a bit cross, they might be a bit whatever. You need to deal with that as a leader. As a leader, we're not out to be everybody's best friend, okay? And let me tell you, you might make some people miffed because they're not doing the right thing and you've called it out, but the other people that are doing the right thing, they're going to congratulate you for it because they're doing the right thing and they think, yay, line in the sand, I know exactly where I stand with this. Okay, so let's look at scenario number 2, conflict. So if you've got internal conflict on the team, if somebody's not getting on with somebody else, if there's a bit of swearing going on or a bit of argy-bargy or whatever it may be, maybe just words or whatever, it depends on how big that conflict is. If the conflict got to the point where there was physical abuse, then you need to act on that straight away and get your HR people in, because that is no-go, right? That is a no. If it is conflict that somebody's having a bit of an argument with someone else and they're not talking now, then we need to get onto that straight away. The first thing you want to do is call the person in and say, hey, Fred, what's going on? I know that you had an argument with Sally and, it got a bit heated. What's going on? Tell me about it. What's troubling you? Try and get on top of it. Call Sally in. Hey, Sally, I know there was an argument. Tell me, are you okay? And what's going on? Try and get to the bottom of what's going on and with concern, with support. If it's ongoing, then it's something you need to nip in the bud early through mediation. And again, you can get your HR people to help you with that. We need to sit these people down, work out what the issues are. They don't have to like each other, but they have to respect each other's space and they have to respect each other, that they're working together. You're not going to love everybody on your team and the team aren't going to love everybody, all together. However, you need to get on in the workplace. So it needs to be nipped in the bud. You need to get a mediator in to get that smelly fish on the table. What do I mean by smelly fish? I mean all the things that have gone wrong. Oh, Sally was arguing with me because she reckons I've got the radio too loud. And when you speak to Sally, yeah, well, I can't concentrate on what I'm doing. I can't do anything because it's really distracting. And so I asked him to turn it down and he wouldn't, whatever it may be. Okay, that could be a big issue if somebody needs to focus on something that's really, really important and somebody's blaring AC/DC over the office wall. So we need to make sure that we nip it in the bud. So if it's physically, if somebody's punched someone or pushed someone or whatever, then we need to get onto that straight away. We separate them, we pull your HR team in and we do a bit of an investigation and your HR people will help you with that. If it is more sedate and it's just two people having a bit of an argument, but it's left some festering sort of ill will, then we need to nip that in the bud too and try and find a resolution. If it keeps going, you need to call a mediator in and again, elicit the help of your HR people. And then what I would do is get a team meeting together and I would say, okay, remember, when we're together as a team, this is above the line behavior where we respect each other, we listen to each other's concerns, we work together, we communicate, and this is the below the line behaviors. This is where we don't talk to each other, we undermine and all that. These are no-goes. These are yes, we move on with those. And just making it really clear where that line in the sand is, okay? So then you can use that meeting as well to get any more smelly fish on the table so you can nip it in the bud early. So you can say this is the above the line behavior, this is the below the line behavior. Hey, has anyone else got any issues? Let's get it out now. Let's talk about it now. Let's discuss it. Let's get some actions. Let's get some solutions solutions so everybody can come to work in a really peaceful and happy way. So that's how you would deal with conflict on your team. Hope that helps. The third and final scenario I've got is your underperformers. So if you've got somebody that's underperforming, you have to sort of gauge it in two separate ways. So number one is, if this person usually performs really, really well and does usually great work, and all of a sudden they're underperforming, then you need to pull this in, because this is a change in behavior. So they might have something going on at home. They might be having a conflict with somebody on the team that's really putting them offside and you don't know about it. You need to get to the bottom and investigate what's going on with that particular person, because this is a change in behavior that that we need to work out what's going on and try and support that person to get back on track. So that's lots of conversations. That's lots of seek to understand conversations. That's how can I support? How can I get you on track? You know, you've missed this deadline. It's really unlike you. What's going on? What do you need from me? If the underperformer is just skimming the minimum line and keeps falling below, then that's a different conversation. So number one, it's concern and support. So we would have a conversation about, hey, Jimmy, you know, you missed that deadline. You weren't able to complete that task on time. You've left your workplace a mess, and we know that there is a particular process that we go through to get to our workplace so that somebody else can take over and it's in a clean and good state, and that's not been happening. So we need to work out what we can do to make sure that that happens. So that's the conversation you start with. If it keeps going on, that conversation needs to be a little bit more formal. Okay, Freddie, we've called you in once. This is happening. It's still happening, even though we put these things in place. It can't happen anymore because this is the ill effects that it's got. This is the ripples that it's doing for other people. So then we do some action planning. Okay, so what we're going to do is, by numbers one, you're going to do this. By numbers two, you're going to do this. Have them say, what else do you think you can do to make this different? By three, you know, get them some ownership over the solutions as well. If it's still not happening, number three is you need to go through a disciplinary type conversation, and again, elicit the help from your HR team. So you've given them some coaching, you've given them some support, you've had some action planning in place. All this you would have documented that you've been doing, right? You've got some action planning in place. That action planning is not going ahead. You're going to go down the disciplinary line now. Okay, and with that disciplinary line, I want you to talk to your HR manager about their fit for role. So if they have been struggling with that role from day one, maybe it's not leveraging off their strengths. Maybe that role's not for them. Maybe they'll be best off in a different department or a different role or a different whatever, okay? Because you don't want to set people up for failure either. We want to set our people up for success. So maybe we have to look at, well, you know, yes, I know that you're in the operations line, and but you're really struggling with that because your attention to detail isn't there. But I know you've got a passion about IT and websites and all that. So there's actually a role going in, you know, in here that we need somebody to work on this particular task. So let's see, Freddie, if you can do this one, because I think this is going to really leverage off your strengths, and see if you can do some sort of role swapping or whatever. The other thing that you've got to do, if you've given them support, you've given them coaching, you've got records of conversation, you've gone down the disciplinary line, you've given them some action planning, then you've got to start thinking about, okay, if there's no other roles that are available for you, we've given you all the support and help that we possibly can, you're still underperforming, tell me why we should keep you on. So it's making them show cause of you know, why they should keep you on. If there is issues at home or whatever else, yes, you have to take those into account, and maybe have a finite time, so a start and finish time of how you're going to support that. Okay, so you've got some problems at home. We're going to give you shortened hours. We're going to take you off shift work. We're going to do whatever we can to help you get over that period of time. But this is for a time of 3 months. And then after that 3 months, we have to get you back into that role because we need you in that role. But we want to support you through this tough time. Okay, so there's those conversations as well. But really what you want to do is show that you've been supportive, show that you've been concerned, show that you've been coaching and trying to help those people through those times of, you know, hardship or whatever. But if it's an ongoing thing and nothing's going to change, then we need to action that as well. Because what happens is the rest of your team members are going to be picking up the slack, and they're going to be getting a bit cross. Okay, so they're going to have to be doing 1.5 jobs because they have to do half of Freddie's as well. And that's just not going to be a nice scenario to have. And your team members are not going to like Fred. And so he's going to feel very isolated and you know, not being able to get on with anybody. He's going to hate coming to work. His mental health may suffer. So this is why we need to, you know, get onto it straight away as much as we possibly can. So there you go. You've got your 3 scenarios. So tardiness or lateness or absenteeism is one. Conflict on the team, depending on the severity, is how you handle it. And then your underperformers. So I hope that's helped, guys. If you've got any questions for me, please don't hesitate to ask on ask@teamleadertoolkit.com, and we will get back to you really, really quickly with some solutions or help or support or whatever we can give you. So hope that helped. Stay tuned for the next video. It's going to be fantastic. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to let it go, but it's going to be fantastic. So stay tuned. Until then, have a fantastic day, and we will speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye.